Well, hello everyone. Good Saturday afternoon. We're so happy that you're here with us. Y'all know me. I'm Sylvia, and I'm here today with Hilda McClure of the Cannetta Center. So we want to inspire you to live your fullest life. We hope that that'll begin by loving yourself and then allowing you to also love those around you. Fill your cup and in turn, be a blessing to others. So my question for you today is, what are you inspired to? What are you inspired to be, to do, or to give to others today? What can make a difference, not only in your life, but in that of those around you as well? And so to share with us in our session today, you're going to meet Hilda McClure. She is going to share with us the work that she does and how she maintains a healthy balance while serving and supporting others. Hi, Hilda. How are you today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited about our chat.
Me too. So as we get started, why don't we take a second to share and let our friends know we're here live. I'm live in 3 groups on my personal page, and then also in Inspiration with Dr. Sil and Sylvia's Circle of Love.
Love it. Love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
Awesome. So we have some folks joining us. Let's take a second to share with friends and invite. Awesome, awesome. I want to be able to see everybody's comments. So if you would please take a minute to accept StreamYard settings so that we can see who you are, or in the chat, tell us your name. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so excited and glad you're here. Or if we're friends, you can certainly message me on Messenger and I'll be monitoring our feedback there as well. So thanks y'all for being on. All right, Hilda, so tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I am I'm the COO and a trauma therapist for Cannenta Center for Healing and Empowerment, and we are a counseling center based in DFW and Addison that serves particularly the Hispanic community. And so we have bilingual services. All of our clinicians are bilingual. And so we are also like really culturally sensitive. So making sure that our work lines up with the culture that we're serving. And then on the flip side of that, we're really passionate about not just elevating our client and their lives, but elevating other clinicians. And so part of our work has extended into a foundation that helps, one, pay for services for those who can't afford it, and then 2, helping bilingual clinicians complete licensure so we can have more culturally sensitive bilingual clinicians in the field. Because in Texas, there's a great need. On a personal note, I'm married to my wonderful husband, Anthony. We have a dog, Kia, and we live here. We've been married for 5 years, and he's just like the best.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you've had that wonderful opportunity to meet that someone special and just to help you be the best you that you can be. I think it's always great when couples can do that for each other. So
Absolutely.
I'm so glad. So tell me a little bit more about your background. What led you to this work? Tell me about, just where you grew up, where you went to school, just a little more so we get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually grew up in Puerto Rico. So I lived there to the age of 18. And then when it was time for college, I actually moved to Texas to go to school, and I've been here ever since. My story is kind of interesting, just like the way the Lord works and just the way he opens doors accordingly. And so when I actually started my undergrad as a psychology major. And in the kind of that journey, one, I felt like the Lord was calling me to move to education, to become a teacher. And the second part of that was also with an undergrad in psychology. And if I wanted to stay in the field, I would still have to pursue higher education. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do that because I was only 18. So I ended up moving to education, did that for 4 years. That was the right move. Got a job right out of college. And 6 weeks a year, once like the newness of the classroom wore down and the decorations and whatnot, I realized that it wasn't for me. And so that actually is what kind of led me into the to the therapy field, I saw my school counselor, who was an LPC, so a licensed professional counselor. I'm a little bit different than a school counselor. She was the one who was coming in and doing one-on-ones with my students, and I really loved that. And I was like, that's the part I enjoy about this job, when I can have lunch with my students, or when or they like come and hang out in my classroom. And so that's actually what began my journey into therapy. After the teaching job, I worked at a church for a little bit. That was a lot of fun. And then I actually started serving at a nonprofit and serving mainly victims of domestic violence and their children. So I was like serving their kiddos. And that is really what introduced me to the trauma work. And I just fell in love with trauma, not trauma, that sounds funny to say, but just the work of healing trauma. And so that is kind of what opened the door for my trauma work. And so I've been doing it basically ever since graduated. And then now I'm a full-time therapist, doing tons of trauma work and helping people kind of walk into healing, into freedom. Really, I think like the honor of my life, maybe some of the holiest work. I've worked at churches. I've done a lot of different things. I was like in the school system a couple of times. And by far, this is like the holiest work life, just be sitting with people.
Yeah, it's really amazing that you say that because just a couple nights ago, a friend of mine invited me to sit in on a masterclass where her name is Dr. Guillory, was going to be sharing about public speaking. And so she had us do an activity, and one of the things she asked us to do was create an I recognize statement. And I made mine really quickly, like I was, how we do when we're watching webinars and things. I was doing 5 other things and I kind of missed the activity, but then she put us in breakout rooms and we had to share. So I just made it really fast, just based on what came off the top of my head. And this is my statement. I recognize that women are dealing with past hurts. As a survivor of a traumatic experience, I'm passionate about and desire to help others to heal through my shared experience.
Yeah.
So hearing you talk specifically about work in that area of trauma is really impactful to me, because just us connecting, and I thank Dr. Letty Cavazos of the Cannenta Center for the connection, that alone lets me know that I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right work. As I mentioned before, and I shared with you, this is broadcasting into my Inspiration with Dr. Sill, where all my friends have been waiting anxiously for getting my thoughts on paper. And so again, for whatever reason, I need all of this reassurance and all of this packaging around me to be sure that I'm going in the right direction. Even today's conversation helps me to see that. So thank you, Hilda, for your work and for sharing that with us. Now, tell us a little bit more about you and who you are and the things you love when you're not working, when you and your husband are planning your next adventure. What are the kinds of things you enjoy?
So when I'm not working, it's really funny. We kind of live on both sides of the spectrum. There's a part of us that is like, we're home buddies. We love being at home. We just bought our first house in summer of 2021. So we're on in 2 years we'll be here. And so we're starting to settle in. And so we're like, we spend all this time and money and like updating the house, and we just want to be home, And then on the other side, we do love to travel and try new things. We were just in New York in January. My husband is creative. He does theater, a lot of theater tech, but he's a musician and he does some graphic design. And so we love the arts. So museums, concerts. Right before COVID, we were kind of on a concert streak. We were like trying to hit at least one concert a month, and we were like real close following like 2019. So we'll do that. I love to read, big avid reader. And then I also love to entertain in my home. We just had a little Valentine's party with our Cannenta staff, and just love like bringing people in and just like making them feel seen without them having to show up. And I think those are values for both me and my husband. So a lot of even though my work is not necessarily formalized in my home, I think a lot of that remains true even in our quieter times of just like, how do we welcome people in? How do we invite people to sit? Just the presence is healing, and that is for both of us, right? Like not just like as a therapist, but as a human, to have someone come sit on the couch with me and watch a movie. And so, A lot of that. Like I said, we live on both sides. We love to travel. I think we're gonna travel this summer, and we also love to just be at home and watch movies and tinker around the house.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally get it. And um, I'm glad y'all have those projects to kind of work through and keep y'all
Yeah.
focused on a teamwork kind of task. So it makes it a lot of fun then to actually see the outcomes of your work. So that's really cool. Well, as we dive in deeper, Hilda, to our conversation today, I just kind of want to let everybody know who is with us that if you have a question, feel free to put that in the comments or the chat. Hilda and I are happy to address and answer your questions. So thank you so much again to everyone who's here with us this afternoon. We hope you find this helpful. We'll have it recorded where you can rewatch or share later. So Hilda, in the work that you do, just tell me a little bit about what that experience has been like for you, as far as maybe you can identify some trends that you see and areas where people are often just getting to a place where they recognize that they could use some support, and how do you guide those individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things about COVID, I was just talking to someone about this, is that what we saw during COVID is that as people were more isolated and we're just like the world was a little bit quieter, all of our stuff started showing up, right? And so what I've been seeing is a lot of individuals have come in because their stuff never went back down, right? So like the stuff that we have kind of been like shoving and keeping ourselves busy because of, work and all those things came to a halt. And then all that stuff that we were like trying to avoid kind of has come up for people. And so we're talking about like the childhood trauma. We're talking about like just like insecurities that we carry with us. And so that has been a big thing that I've kind of seen in the counseling room more recently. And I think one of the first kind of signs that can be that hey, we might need to talk to someone is when we start to not feel like ourselves, right? Like when there's kind of a numbness that kind of settles in where we're like just kind of going through the motions. Sometimes that can also be when we're starting to have like more negative thoughts, like a little bit more negative view on the world can be an indication that we need to talk to someone. And even when we don't necessarily feel like we're functioning at like we're having a hard time getting out of bed, we're not motivated, the things that we used to enjoy we don't enjoy anymore. And it can be on the flip side when we're starting to see like some symptoms of anxiety that might include like just having like a lot of worry, over things that may or may not come to pass. So this is beyond necessarily, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make rent this month. And like, I know that to be true, maybe because of my situation. And what if someone breaks into my house, and you're like starting to escalate these thoughts, like these worries. So those all can be indicators for coming in to talk to someone. I think the biggest thing is to just notice if you're not feeling like yourself. Like if you're feeling like, wait a minute, I didn't do this before. I didn't struggle with this before. Or I'm just noticing that I'm not like living up to my potential, or I'm like not working. I can't bring my A game, if that makes sense. Like I just can't seem to track where with what I used to be doing.
So Hilda, my hope is that through our conversation, we can give folks some strategies for how they can find some balance themselves and to keep all of the pieces of our lives. You and I have talked about the importance of wholeness and wellness and how those things all come together. So my hope is that as we close out today, when we get to that point, that folks will be able to have 2 or 3 strategies they can take forward with them into action. One wondering that I have as we work our way toward that in our conversation is, we hear a lot in advertisements and conversations about wellness and mental health and kind of checking in on our friends and being there for them. And that can be, sometimes I think it comes off a little packaged, and it seems like, oh yeah, so what am I supposed to say? And the commercial says, ask this, ask that, and I've had conversations with people where they're like, yeah, but I'm not a professional. And I want to hang out with my friends when I'm hanging out. I don't want to ask questions to try to lead to something. But as a friend, as that resource or someone that often others will turn to, how can we guide people, or what should we, if we hear some of those signs, or we have a friend who's not coming out like they used to, or things like that, how can we respond as friends and community?
Absolutely. Well, I think you actually touched on this at the very beginning, just talking about what you recognized. So the all the research, especially when we talk about trauma, childhood trauma, all the research shows that we actually heal in relationship. So even in therapy, the number one predictor for positive outcomes is the nature of the relationship between the therapist and the client. And so as friends, right, we are also part of that healing network. And so when we actually connect with someone and show empathy, and when we just ask, like, hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? How have you been feeling? Those actually bring about healing in our body, because our brain needs that kind of connection. And so I do think, I agree with you. I do think it comes across a little package, right? And I think I understand why they advertise that way, but it really is about just like showing up for people and just allowing them to have some space to chat about what's bothering them without trying to fix it, trying to rush them through it. And it also doesn't mean that it's everyone in your circle, because that is undoable, right? But like the people that you walk closest with, right? Like that there's a little bit of accountability in that, just asking them how they're doing. And then if you start to see like, hey, I think there's something else here, being able to lean into that conversation and say like, hey, I've just really been noticing that you haven't been yourself lately. Like, tell me a little bit about what's going on. How can I support you in this?
Yeah.
And then if they're open, right, like asking if they want resources or suggesting like, hey, maybe you should, if you're open, maybe you should go talk to someone. Maybe I can help you get that set up, or maybe I can refer you to someone, or, but I think we forget the power that comes from just community. And as a friend, just like leaning into that. Brynn, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Brene Brown did a special on HBO Max, which if you haven't watched any of her stuff, she's incredible. But one of the things that stuck out, she does a series on emotions, but one of the things that stuck out to me through that series is when she talks about empathy. She's kind of one of the leading experts that has defined empathy, but she's come to change her definition. So it's not just like walking in someone's shoes, but it's like being able to understand and believing them in their experience, right? And so when our friends come to us with stuff, being able to say like, hey, I hear you, I see you, wow, that's really hard, and also I believe you.
Right. That's really validating their feelings, their
Yeah.
emotions. Sometimes that's all that's needed, is that validation. And there's just so much you've said that's so impactful to me. What I heard is we have the power to heal. So as being good listeners, as being whole ourselves and friends with good boundaries, we are able to then support those in our circle. And a very important thing you said also is it doesn't mean we're going to be everything to everyone. We won't be and we can't be, but knowing what we can be and the difference we can make is very significant. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I was going to say, part of our job, like when we are whole ourselves, we can actually we can show up better, and we actually are better at reading our friends' cues when we are practicing wellness and wholeness for ourselves, so that we can show up.
Yes, which on that note, that's exactly where I want to spend a bulk of our time, because, I've always believed, and I've said in lots of circles, that in order to be good to others, we have to be good to ourselves. And so it's important for us to fill our cups and to ensure that we are pouring into ourselves and giving to ourselves. And not that there's a load of selfishness in that, but an importance of self-care. And in order to, if we're taking our car for a drive, we need that car in good condition. We need the oil changed. We need the tires where they need to be. We need the brakes working and functioning well. So we are a vehicle that supports others in lots of instances. And so we want to be in our best condition to provide the support and service that we do. So Hilda, one thing that comes to mind is work stress and work environment. I know that a lot of people have really high demands right now, as if it's simply just the job itself or a result of all that's going on in our society and with COVID and things like that. But no matter what, I know people are really facing and dealing with a lot of high stress from high demands. So what are some tips that you can give us for managing those situations well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can't start this conversation without first acknowledging that self-care, like even before we start using the word self-care, especially in those environments, is like, we don't even have a word for it yet, but I think society has been like, okay, I'm going to like, as part of my self-care, I'm going to eat well, or I'm going to eat in general, right? And that's not even like self-care, that's just like adulting, like, right, like that's just being human. And so understanding that eating well, moving our bodies, getting 8 hours of sleep, that's not, so that is like baseline,
That's
right?
like maintenance.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said, that sounds to me like that's maintenance.
Yeah, it is just maintenance, right? And so sometimes we kind of get confused, and are like, well, I'm going to self-care in this way, when in reality we can't even do some of the deeper levels of self-care if we're not honoring our bodies in those ways, right? And so thinking about like a work situation, research has shown that if we're not getting our 8 hours, 8 to 10, everyone's a little bit different, right? But if we're not getting the full hours of sleep we need, right, you're more irritable, you're going to snack more, you're going to have a hard time regulating emotions. And so making sure that our maintenance routines are in place. That's going to always helpful with any stressful environment. Hunger cues. When we go without eating, our body thinks we're going into starvation, and so that releases a stress hormone, right? And so it's just these little things that start to add up. And so when we go into like work environments, toxic environments, we have to start with just the maintenance, making sure. And it's not about perfection, right? Because I can tell you this week, I didn't get 8 hours every night. And sometimes that's what happens. But leaning into those routines or those rhythms more regularly than not. Once you kind of have figured that part out for yourself, I think the next part for toxic environments is understanding what your trigger points are, right? So understanding what is it that's going to set me off? What is it that is like really bothering me, so that we can do some work around that. So for example, and a lot of it is going to be boundary work. So if you have maybe like a really demanding boss, being able to say like, hey, there's only a certain way, and they talk to you a certain way, kind of expressing like, hey, communicate in a different way. And then for me, when it comes to toxic environments, I kind of get to this point where I'm like, what's this costing me? And having a more like a deeper conversation with myself about, okay, do I have to be here? Do I have to be here? Because I think that the world kind of gets they try to get away with those things, right? But honestly, if you take care of the eating, the sleeping, the exercise, a lot of the other stuff falls into place, because the very act of honoring self gives us a lot of space to manage the rest of it.
Hilda, those are great recommendations. Let me ask you this. Do you have some favorite resources or authors? You mentioned Brene Brown. Are there others that you would recommend that maybe some of our folks who are watching might Google or look
Yeah.
into YouTube for themselves?
Yeah. I love Brene Brown. For my Latinas, the book that I've been kind of stuck on is called The Maria Paradox. It is written about Latina self-confidence in terms of our culture, and so how we own our culture while also living in sometimes a harsh culture towards, right, like people of color. But that has been really freeing and really healing, and actually has helped me in my own self-care journey of identifying ways my culture can actually be healing for me. That doesn't feel forced. The Myriad Paradox. Um, right now I'm reading the book Quiet. I can't think of her name, but she has 2 books, Quiet and Bittersweet. Susan Cain, her work is incredible. Trying to think. Kind of put me on the spot there, Dr. Sill.
While you're thinking, those are some great ideas. One of my go-tos is Valerie Burton. I really love Valerie, and she does a lot of coaching work and also inspires others who want to coach as well. So that's one reason I really like her work, is because she tackles it from both, and she teaches you how to be your own coach. So that's really helpful. I really like her stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't think I've written it. I don't think I've read anything by her. I'll add her to my list.
Yes, please do. Well, thank you for those suggestions. Those were great. So as we do kind of continue to put you on the spot, tell us about, well, I actually want to share this first, so it gives you another minute. But what I wanted to add and make sure that we mention is that one of the things, as I mentioned about inspiration, inspiration is very important to me, and that's one of my goals, is to inspire. But along with that is to empower. And so I feel like a lot of what you've shared today really gives us keys and tools and resources to be empowered. I think when we are empowered, then that leads us to inspire others. And so I hope that I just wanted to share that lens so that others will also be empowered. Like when we talked about the power to heal, that's an empowerment that we can take with us moving forward, and building our confidence. All of those things help to make us stronger and wholer, and then to do the things we need to do along this life's journey. I'll tell you this kind of as we do transition into a little bit more of the strategies that maybe you engage in that you would share with us. I've done quite a bit of coaching over my life, and I love self-growth. I'm always trying to be my best self, truly, for others. And what I found, though, is every time I would do these little coaching quizzes and coaching conversations, it always led to the fact that I was not enjoying the journey. So I really want for everybody to have that, allow me to share that, so that then maybe that's something that will be a reflective moment for someone else. Because when you are, in the grind and in the hustle and in the high pressure environments that we sometimes work in, yes, we're being a blessing to others, but we're not being a blessing to ourselves. And so I really, was realizing that blink and I miss it. I'm so busy. I am very futuristic. I am very goal oriented. I am very visionary. But if you're constantly looking to tomorrow, how much are you really in the present moment, enjoying today and making those memories today that will be something special moving forward? And so, but really, truly, even not so much about that, but simply sitting in the moment, sitting in this day. And so that's huge for me. And I thought I, would share that. And because I would love to hear from you as well, through all the high demands that you have in your professional life and everything we're all dealing with. You're in the middle of all of that cosmos as well. So what are some things that you do that you would be happy to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I want to touch on something. I love that idea of being in the moment. We miss so much when we're not, right? And it's actually good for our brains too. So I love that, because there's research to show that when we practice mindfulness, when we practice being in the moment, again, that brings like wellness and healing to our body. So fun fact, well, I think this is fun because I love the brain stuff, but our brains don't actually live in tense. So they only live in present tense. So even when you pull something from the past, so you remember something, the context in which you remember it actually alters the memory when we're practicing presence. And so when we do practice presence, that actually opens the door for us to be able to notice things in our world, like in our personal world, that we can start like tweaking, right, when necessary. And so for myself, I think the last couple years, I have felt like I've been on a journey of kind of very similar, being present and resting, making rest something that's very active and at the forefront of what I'm doing. Um, and so the way I've kind of gone about that and what I have found to be really effective for me is identifying my value system. And so what I started noticing was that like there was things I was doing that I wasn't enjoying, very similar, or I felt like I'm like, I don't really want to do this, but I'm doing this, and that distress was kind of like messing with me. And so what I have found is that as I have identified my my own values, whether those were excuse me, some of them spiritual values, right? Some of them are just like life values, and actually made it easier for me to self-care and take care of myself because I had kind of a baseline to come back to. So for an example of that, like I really value authenticity. And so if I'm doing something and it doesn't feel authentic, then I shouldn't be doing it, right? And so when either opportunities or things come into a place that I can't feel authentic, then that's an automatic no. And so another one of that is community building, right? So like just being in community. And so what I'm trying to like clear this up, like just, but so basically if something happens and this particular thing is going to force me to live outside of my values, it's an automatic no. The more I've done that, the more confident I've actually becoming the person I want to be, and not, right, because I'm actively in pursuit of that. So if my value is rest, that means that Sundays, as soon as midnight comes, my phone goes on silent, and that's what I'm going to do all day, like rest. And the more I've leaned into this value system, the more the more self-care I'm actually practicing. And I think that's been a really big game changer for me in the last 2 years, because we do live in a hustle culture, and that really encourages us like to work 24/7 and to do all the things and be on all the platforms. But as I have narrowed down what my value system is and what's important to me, I start those things, self-care becomes like almost like a breeze. Like another one is like right wellness. And so again, it's not about nailing it, but that means that I'm like making sure I'm eating clean. That makes right, because that is the value that is to it. It's not just about like eating healthy for the sake of eating healthy, although right there's good stuff around that. But it's about if the value is honoring my body and honoring wellness, then that makes it a very easy choice for me.
I really like that. And what I'm hearing is you have found a way, number one, to identify your values, and number two, to hold yourself accountable. And that's really great. I'm so glad to hear that. I heard an activity once, and it had to do like, let's say with, I can't remember exactly if it was like minutes in the day or hours of a week, something like that. And the person put, and I don't know if this was an example or an actual life practice, but they put whatever number of, let's say 56 weeks in a year. So they put 56 pebbles in a jar. And when they were going to commit to something, if it was worth one of those pebbles, then they would move it over and do it. And if it wasn't, then they wouldn't. And that's kind of what the pattern I was hearing in what you were sharing, that, okay, this is my value. And then I test against whatever it is that I'm considering to do. So awesome. Great tip. So thank you so much, Hilda. You've shared some wonderful ideas with us through the conversation, and I really appreciate it. I'll definitely circle back, but I want to make sure that in this point of the conversation, I do mention I've had a number of friends, just conversations that I have. I'm obviously not an introvert, so I never meet a stranger. And in some of those discussions, there's been an ask for, I want to find a way to get grounded. I need some things that sometimes folks don't even know how to really put it into words to say, you know, I could use some counseling. I think I need some therapy. And so that was really one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you, a representative from the Cannenta Center, on with us today. Number one, for all these great nuggets, but also to share with folks that you guys are available, whether that's in person or whether it's virtual. Also to say that, you know, a lot of times now with our medical insurance, you know, just a matter of a copay, and we can be getting some great support, or now through the foundation, you know. So I want to bring the foundation to the forefront in a couple of ways. Number one, if some of my friends or the folks in my circle are in a position to donate, to help, to contribute, I definitely want everybody to know that that's an opportunity. Or on the other hand, if maybe someone would benefit from applying and being able to take advantage of some services through the foundation. Whatever happens to be that place in life that you are, I want you to know that the Cannenta Center is here to help and support you. It's been a humongous blessing in my life. And so I'm just really glad to share forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the shout out. Yeah, we're bottom line for our foundation, for our center, is that we're here to serve. I love the name of it, right? Cannenta Center for Healing and Empowerment. And so anything, right? Like I do trauma work because that is kind of my passion, but we have people on staff that do couples, do children, teens, right? And counseling isn't just for trauma. Counseling is for like, hey, I want to improve my communication style. Hey, I want to improve self-esteem. Hey, I need it's very helpful to talk to someone who doesn't know your life for reals, right? Like that can really give you some non-biased, like help you ask the right questions in a really non-biased way. And so we work really hard to make counseling accessible for everyone, in any way possible. We also have like life coaches. I forgot about our life coaches. We have life coaches on staff too. And so if anyone, you need to talk to someone, we're there. Our foundation does help cover costs for those who can't afford it. And if you do feel like you can donate to make like healing, right? Like we're making wholeness accessible. Like we would love that. The work we do today is not just for us. The work we do today is also for the generations that come after us. And so that is at the heart of like what we do. It's not just about our community right now. Like, yes, I want wholeness for me, I want wholeness for you, I want wholeness for our listeners, but I also want wholeness for our sons and daughters that come after us. And that begins with us. And so if we're willing to lean into that, Cannenta is here for y'all.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so where can folks follow you, Hilda, and the Cannetta Center, if they have some questions or want to find out what events they can participate in to be of support? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we are on, our website is cannentacenter.com. And we have a link on there for our foundation. Then we're on Facebook under Cannenta Center, LinkedIn, and Instagram for both our Cannenta Center and for Cannenta Foundation. Cannenta Center will, if you find our website, we can connect you to the foundation through that same contact us.
Okay, great. I want to mention also that if anybody has any questions, we'll be wrapping up shortly. So feel free to put those in the comments or in the messaging so I can be sure to ask Hilda your question.
Dr. Sil, what have you been doing for self-care lately?
Oh, well, I've been listening once a day to beach sounds. I find it very, very comforting. I enjoy just relaxing in that. So, of course, that puts, and I have always had travel on my brain. I was actually born on an island. I was born on Galveston Island. So I love the water. I find it very calming, very relaxing. So that's been a lot of fun for me. Been doing that lately. And then also I am a huge fan and follower of Og Mandino. So Og Mandino wrote a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And from that book, he shared with us through the main character, 10 scrolls. And so I interact with the scrolls and will listen. So a week ago, it was I will greet this day with love in my heart. That's scroll number 2. And then scroll number 3 is the week that just passed, is I will persist until I succeed. And so just having those positive thoughts in my mind, and also the mental tools that I need to be persistent and to greet the day with love and things of that nature are very helpful to me.
Yeah, that's great. Affirmations are a great, great resource and tool for us. I love that. I didn't know you were an island girl like me.
Yes, yes, I'm drawn to the water. I love it.
Yeah, same. I do too. I miss my island so much. I refuse to get into lake water. Not salty. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So sounds like we have a beach retreat in our
Yeah,
future.
yes.
That would be awesome.
Healing, wholeness. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I love
good
that.
question. Any other questions for me?
Um, what do you think has been like the most monumental maybe thing, person, activity that has really changed your like motivated your wellness? Like what has been the game changer for you?
That's a fabulous question. I think recognizing that health and wellness is not about the tangible things that make it such a big challenge for us. So whether it's giving up my favorite food, quote unquote, or having to exercise, or th- instead of looking at what those activities are as challenges or barriers, looking at the importance of the results and the outcome. So I'll give you an example. And then I can kind of tie it to maybe something a little more practical. So the example is taking medication. I never like to take meds. And it's really funny because one of the reasons why, I'm sure there's several, but I just was watching Elvis with my mom this morning. And it took us the whole day to watch it. It was so much fun. I waited for months and just finally I was like, that's it. I'm watching it today. But I grew up a huge Elvis fan. I love Elvis. And I knew that he died from all these pills and all this overdose stuff. And so to me, it was just like this huge just thing in my mind. I didn't like the idea of taking medication or taking pills. And so as an adult, all of a sudden being pre-diabetic and being, all these other high blood pressure or what have you, I didn't like the idea of taking medicine. And so it was very, but I was very passive aggressive about it. I did not address it. And so I would just ignore it. So I really felt like ignoring it was resolving the issue. I was finding out that was not the case. So then I started put practical steps in place. Things like having my little pill boxes and getting enough medication and making about a 6 weeks worth of my little pill boxes. So taking the guesswork out of it, making it a routine and making it a system. So I think really, truly recognizing that I have the control to focus on that positive outcome and make a difference. I think when in times of my life when I have felt I don't have control, that's when it's more in control of me. And so just recognizing that. I think growing up, we often are defined by whatever it is that other people see in us. Oh, she's this, oh, she's that, whatever those things fill in the blank that they may be. And we allow that to consume us. So I think, Hilda, that my answer to your question is shifting my focus. Shifting my focus from what people would define me to be or what these things may cause me to be, but recognizing that there's a more important focus and purpose, the longevity of my life, the quality of my life, those things are more important than whatever perception someone has of me or whatever challenge that I feel like I can't overcome.
Yeah, like really coming back to your why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I think be feeling in control of some of like the things we can be is so helpful for our mindset. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
And Hilda, what comes to mind with all of that too is recognizing that we are purposed and embracing that purpose and having the want and desire to walk out that purpose. I think that when we are grounded in purpose, anything is possible. And so I appreciate you. I know we had talked also in one of our previous chats, about the importance of our faith. And that's what comes to mind in this moment, as I think of the chapter of Luke and the words that God shares with us about everything being possible, that with him, everything is possible. And so I think that sometimes the hope that we need is to recognize that all things are possible with the strength that God gives us. And so whatever challenge it is that we're facing, just the right word at the right time, the right action. Recently, I was having a conversation about decisions. One decision will change your life. And so making wise decisions, making wise choices, and being grounded and having the strength to be able to do that. And so sometimes you have to unpeel the layers. Sometimes if you try to start all at level 7, you'll find, that's a bit much, but just, peel back the layers and find out where to start. If it's strength that you need, muster up the strength, seek out opportunities for building your strength, then so that the next step can be taking action. Sometimes action's not going to be the first thing. We may be 2 or 3 steps away from the action that we think we need to take. But when we can unpeel the layers and really be strategic and intentional about the things that we're doing to support and serve ourselves, to give ourselves that oxygen first, to then be of a blessing to others.
Absolutely. And I think even on that, just when we give ourselves that oxygen, our purpose becomes a lot clearer, right? Because we can hold the boundaries and we can recognize the things that bring passion and purpose into our lives.
Awesome. So our Facebook, one of our Facebook friends asked, are there any upcoming events at the Cannetta Center?
Yes, actually, I'm so glad someone asked. We are hosting, so it's going to be a big year for our foundation. We have 2 big events this year. On March 4th, we are hosting what we're calling the Latinx and Social Work Summit. Our founder and CEO, Dr. Letica Vasos, was part of this book called Latinx and Social Work. And it's a group of social workers from across the country who write about the importance of story and why our stories matter and how they bring forth their stories. And so March 4th, we'll be doing that. If you guys message Dr. Sill or me, we'd be more than willing to share a discount code for anyone who wants to sign up and join us for that. It's going to be so special. We're bringing in 7 of the authors, and they're going to talk about their chapter and talk about just why story matters, and hopefully encourage those to begin sharing their own story and recognizing the importance of their own story. And then in September 15th, we're having probably DFW's first ever Latinx mental health conference. And so there's going to be 2 tracks to that. One of it is for clinicians, so those that need CEUs, that want to learn more of how to serve our community better. We'll have that side. And the second track is actually for our community. So part of the work we're doing is helping remove stigma around mental health for the Hispanic community. And so we're going to have a track just for our community to come in and learn more and engage in these very similar conversations that for a long time, right, are maybe our abuelas or our mamas are just like, no, we don't have time to feel any sort of way about it. And so that'll be in September. But in 2 weeks, we'll have our first ever Latinx and Social Work Summit.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, Hilda. We're so glad that you're here. We're glad that the Cannetta Center is supporting our community, and we're happy to connect. So thank you for sharing. I am so ever grateful. I'm happy that we've connected and look forward to all the fabulous things that we can do together. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor. If anyone's listening, needs more information, check out our website. You can email me. Email address is hilda@cannentacenter.com, but you can find us on the website. And Dr. Sill, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for engaging the community in this conversation. It's so important for us, like you said, to put our oxygen mask on first.
Absolutely. All right, Hilda, you have a fabulous rest of the day and enjoy your weekend. Get you some rest tomorrow. I know it's high.
I will. Yeah, I will. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.